we will get cracking. So we have the wonderful Beth Hope joining us today, and in the usual way, we will test her humanity and to ensure she's one of us with a few quick fire questions for you,
Oh,
Beth.
Lord.
So tell us, what was your favourite age and why?
Oh, Jesus. Do you know what? I'm actually going to go for now.
Ooh.
So I'm currently 29. Yeah, going to go for now because I think there's so much going on, especially this year. And it's kind of one of those things where just facing into those negative things, those constructive things, and actually being like, do you know what? I'm really good with who I am now. I'm authentic, I'm me, growing and all of that. Personal life going extremely well, so that always helps. Career, actually doing what I want, and also open to that changing. So yeah, I think it's got to be now most authentic me.
Awesome, amazing. And what would we find on your nightstand, Beth?
Well, I can tell you because I'm looking at it. A lovely bunch of flowers from the weekend is there. And at the moment, I've got the Shakespeare sonnets because my now fiance and I are reading them to each other. We started it over lockdown, like one a night, and then getting through them and analysing them, not understanding most of them. But then there's another book that tells us what they all mean. So yeah, that's what we're doing at the moment.
Oh, that is the most sweetest thing ever. And tell us a snapshot of an everyday small joy.
Working out with my sister. So hugely into exercise, and that's actually my sister that got me into it. And so since lockdown, because she's in Oxford, I'm in London, we work out at 6 a.m. together, like over Skype, doing the same thing on Instagram. And so it's just like our little sister time. And when my baby niece is awake, she comes and joins in, and she has mini weights that like she goes and picks up and like dances around with them when we're doing our stuff, and like she pretends to squat and stuff. So yeah, having an hour with my sister every morning is just the best.
Oh, wonderful. You passed the test. You're definitely human.
Yay, finally.
Right. So for those who are new, we always, each week we have either a new project manager or an expert come in and just talk to us about, career transitions or making the move into project management or some skills and stuff. So it's all in supporting you with some practical guidance. Every week is a bit different. We start off with our guest speaker talking a bit around their experiences or some practical advice. And then there's an opportunity to ask questions and talk from personal experiences and stuff like that. So we welcome any questions. You can pop those into the comment box, or you can unmute yourself and ask away. So I'm going to hand over to you, Beth.
Thank you. Yeah, and as Jay said, just this is for you. So any questions, anything, just put your hand up and go for it. So just to give you kind of an overview of my career so far. So I did event management at uni and went straight into event management in Liverpool Street in London when I graduated, doing kind of large scale corporate events, awards, meetings, all of those kind of things. Absolutely loved it. I am the most anally organized human being ever. And love that side of it. But I think for me, I kind of got a lot out of it over a couple of years, and then wanted to make a career switch actually into HR, because I thought that was going to help people. And then I did that for a couple of years and knew that coaching was what I wanted, and that was actually how I could make a difference. And so then set up my career. So I've gone through kind of 3 big career transitions that maybe doesn't necessarily look that logical on paper, but it's really been about that fundamental core of organization and people skills. And so they've all made complete sense, and it's being able to kind of bring that into interviews around transferable skills, because really if you event manage, you can manage life. You are an absolute boss, and it's about bringing that to the front. So because I have had our experience, and interviews are actually my favorite thing. Like I love doing them. I love being part of them. They're incredible. So I thought today what would be most helpful for you guys is maybe just run through a few like really key things to think about in this process, because I get it, job hunting can be really soul destroying, especially when you send off a lot of applications and 99% of them never even send an email back saying, sorry, not now, you know. So I get it. And I think that's one of the first things to remember is keep going, just keep rolling the dice. My partner always says it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall and we're just seeing what sticks. You just keep throwing it, something is going to go, and it is the right opportunity will work out. And I truly believe that. But also you have the power, because I think also in these situations it can be really, really easy to forget that actually when you go to an interview, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. You don't want to go out of the frying pan into the fire. You need to make sure this is the right move for you. It's in line with your values. It's in line with your career path. They will be able to support you. You support them, and make it a collaborative relationship. So it's just that little tweak of mindset to remember you are actually an amazing person. They would be lucky to have you. So let's make sure that it's the right step for both sides. Like any relationship, right? It's kind of like dating, and interviewing actually is really a lot like dating. Put yourself on and make it all good. So yeah, so how does that sound? Just going through a few kind of things to think about for interviews and that sort of stuff. Okay, I see some nodding and beautiful faces. So we'll do some kind of, I guess, mindset work a little bit later, and they're things that a few of you have seen before. So things like breathing and stuff, just to set yourself up first. But let's think about the actual interviews themselves. So there's a few basics, and especially if over the next couple of months, interviews are more likely to be over Zoom. Really simple things like check your background, open a Zoom new meeting beforehand and just check that you're happy with how you look, your background is, you've got clear light, and all of those kind of basic things. First check that, and obviously your internet connection, and check the calendar invite and whether you're on Zoom, your Skype, your Teams. Make sure all those things are downloaded well in advance, because you don't want to panic yourself trying to scramble to download all these different apps that everyone's using, and especially as companies have different preferences. So they're kind of the initial things, is just make sure the tech works. Second is, in a Zoom interview, it's obviously quite different from an in-person interview that we've maybe done a bit more in real life, because you're only being seen from kind of shoulders up. And also, when I practice interviews with my clients to over Zoom and I record them, they sometimes notice that actually you might do natural movements like this in person, which is absolutely fine when you're in the room. But if it's over Zoom, you're suddenly like, it's very distracting. So it's just kind of making sure you're centered. If you're sitting down, sit down with your feet planted firmly on the floor. Try not to cross your legs, because it's just about changing that tone of voice. And so when we plant our feet on the floor, no one can see it, but it just changes the energy in your voice slightly. Or if you're someone that would rather stand up, then make sure you're propped up, stand up. And again, stand feet hip width apart, shoulders back. And it's just practicing that slow, steady tone. And feel free to practice that. It's work I do with clients, of doing specific practice interviews and then going through them and recording them. So you can see that, you can practice it, you can see how you come across, just as we adapt to maybe a slightly different way of working. And then one of the real benefits of interviews over Zoom is that you can have notes all around your laptop or down there that no one can see. So make sure, make your keynotes, make them big, make them singular words if you want, like your experience or your qualities, organizational skills, interpersonal skills, communication, or key things from your CV. Stick them around your laptop and then practice with Zoom, and just make sure that none of the papers are visible. And also remember eyesight. So don't kind of go off here and read, be like, yes. So when I was like 2015 and I did this, remember, come back, keep them short, keep them big, and just little prompts to help you. Those things are really useful. And kind of going in line with that is when we're looking at our CVs and we're prepping for an interview in itself, whether it's in Zoom, whether it's in person, the prep is kind of the same. Because what you want to do is you can prep for the obvious questions, even the questions that I think should never be asked, like what's your worst quality? It's the stupidest question that anyone ever asks, because if they listen to you and they have really great interviewer skills, they'll pick it up anyway. But prep that, because it's one that can really slip you up. So what is your worst quality? What are your strengths? Strengths and weaknesses, prep both of those. We can go through answers and stuff in a minute, and I want to see what you guys think you would respond authentically. Things like, why you? So are there 3 key things that you bring to this role, to this company? Why you? And why them? Why do you actually want to work with them? What is it about them that connects with you? Is it around values? Is it around fulfillment? Is it around the day-to-day that you will get to do? Things like, where do you want to be in 5 years? No, I'd never ask that personally. I mean, everyone in 2015 didn't get that right. So, but be authentic, be honest, because the thing is if we put on a kind of a veneer of, oh, we're amazing, we did this, we love this, we'll do anything that you want, just please take me, then you're not going to do yourself any favors, because you want this role to support you how you need to be supported, to manage you how you need to be managed, to let you manage how you naturally manage, and create this thing. So kind of take time to actually think, what are my values? What do I enjoy doing? What do I do well? What am I working on? And what are you working on links to your weaknesses question. So if they ask, what are your weaknesses or anything like that, it's quite a good thing to have something that you have worked on. So something that, for example, I don't know, give me anything that, you've really worked on, whether it's kind of management style or something like, oh, I've, in the past, I've worked with people that I've noticed have a different personality type from me. So what I did was actually I looked into it, I researched, I took that step back and noted and asked them how did they like to be managed, because it wasn't being as collaborative a relationship as it could have been. So I took that time to really talk with them and understand their perspective. And so that's kind of how I've now go in with management, is when I take over a new team or I'm working with senior stakeholders, I take time to either have that conversation overtly and see how they like to work versus how I like to work, or try and step back out of my own perception and think, wait a minute, is this conflict arising because we're just coming at the same thing from 2 different sides of the coin, and how can I remedy that? So something like that, something that you've worked on, how you've worked on it, and how you move forward. It's kind of situation, evaluation, action, conclusion. And that's quite a good step to go through for any of your questions, is what was the situation? How did you evaluate it? What was your action plan to move forward? How did you conclude that? And then kind of circle back. So what was the evaluation of that whole process, and how you keep evolving, reiterating, because we are human, bless you. We are human, and we just need to, we need to remember that. No one is perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. We learn, we make mistakes, and that's great. Otherwise, life would be very boring and no one would innovate anything. So it's just remembering those as the kind of the basic questions. And also to kind of, to end the interview, is I would have 1 to 3 questions that you want to ask them. And they can, really put time into thinking about this. And this links to the why them question of, once, if you're a bit stuck on kind of what to ask, things like, what do they see as success within the first 3 months, and how do they support you achieving that? What what management style works best for them. If you're going in with a team, then, you know, knowing more about your team is great. Or if you're going in and you're being interviewed by your manager to be, then it's how, you know, how can you be the best employee to make them succeed, you know, something around that, to try and get that overt conversation of, I work best when I work this way, how do you work best? Okay, maybe it's there, so how can we work together collaboratively and honestly moving forward? So it's just thinking background and situation, get the tech, get all of that stuff. If you're traveling to an interview, leave plenty of time, let yourself relax. There's always going to be a Pret about 4 minutes away from wherever you are. So, you know, go there, relax, go through things. Then think about background, content, and prep for the interview. Why you? Why them? Why the role? Strengths, weaknesses, what you want from them, and your questions for them. And then going one step further, when you're looking through your experience, for everything, try and get 1 to 3 facts and evidence basis of what you've done. So for example, if I asked you, tell me about a time when things have gone wrong and how did you approach it? Or tell me about a time when you disagreed with your client and how did you work through it? Or tell me about your greatest achievement. Tell me about the greatest mistake that you've made. So how would you answer those kinds of questions with evidence from your CV, from your experience? And it's kind of pushing yourself to prep for these kinds of things that are difficult to answer, so that when you get into the interview, you're like, oh, this is much easier than I thought it was. You know, I've got all this prep about like times that I haven't done that well, but how I've pushed through it, and times I've done this, and evidence, and 1, 2, 3, and all of this stuff, and evaluation, and action plans, and growth, and all this stuff. And then they ask you like, oh, that's really great. So just tell me, like, what are you looking for? And you're like, wait, I know I've done lots of prep of very good things, so I'll just tell you all about that. But it's all of this just pre-work. And the great thing is if you do this once, you've got this for a whole plethora of interviews. So it just makes everything a lot easier. You can do it. So before we start, has anyone got any questions, or kind of what are your thoughts about all of that stuff so far? Oh, there is a tip. Tim, are you finding that employers want recognition for how the working landscape has changed? Should I reflect on my leadership management style has changed, or is it possible not yet perfected? I think, yeah, it might be that they want it. I mean, it depends really what they ask. I think it is good to talk about how things have changed, especially as everyone has now adapted to this way of working, and that has made management a lot more difficult for some people, but other people have actually really excelled. And also I think they're kind of the next 6 months to a year is going to be more difficult in some ways, because some companies are really pushing people to come back who don't want to come back. And so there's going to be a bit more of a broken up team of some people who want to work at home full time, some people who want to be in the office full time, and those people that kind of want that flexibility. So it's thinking about you as a manager and your leadership and management style. How have you adapted to manage people over Zoom when you don't have coffee chats anymore? You don't have, oh, bumping into the kitchen, you know, how are you? How's your day? That kind of stuff has gone. How have you actually brought it in? How have you changed it? How have you made it work better for you? And then thinking about moving forward, what reflections have you got on yourself around how can you manage a team completely virtually? How can you bring people back who are maybe anxious about coming in or excited about coming in? What about managing teams that are half and half, or where at least 50% or 25% of your team won't be in the office at the same time if people are rotating. There's so many different ways of working that we're going to be kind of looking at over the next 6 months to a year. So what challenges are there? And you don't have to have all the answers. I mean, who bloody knows? I mean, no one knows. But it's about showing that those are the reflections, and you're being honest, you're being authentic, you're evaluating as you go. You don't have all the answers because we're human. So what have you reflected on? What does that bring to yourself now? And then how do you constantly evaluate that and change and adapt and ask for feedback? What's working? How can you do more of it? Those kinds of things. I hope that answers your question.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
No worries. Yes.
Sorry.
No worries.
I had an interview about 2 or 3 months ago, and it was just a telephone interview. And even though I knew this question was coming up, it still stumped me. And it was the one asking about what have I done during lockdown. And personally for me, I didn't do that much because I was dealing with the actual practicalities of losing the job and trying to keep food on the table. So I did try to spin it, but in that same moment, it made me feel a bit disappointed that I wasn't as active, as it were, compared to other people during lockdown in terms of all the learning that people doing and wider reading and the extra activities. How best to approach that question because I truly believe in being as honest as possible, but not to see as, and not for them to hear it as a negative thing that compared to candidate B, I haven't done a further education course, or I haven't done, read all the great literature books that they could be reading, sort of thing. Like how best to spin that so that I come out of it feeling more positive, because I've kind of felt disappointed that it wasn't what he wanted to hear, sort of thing, that I was literally dealing with the practicalities of life, basically.
I think if you listen to yourself answer your own question, to me that's insanely impressive, more than suddenly learning 8 languages because you're just by yourself in your flat. Like, I don't see how any potential employer can see that as a negative thing, that you have been dealing with the global pandemic that has affected the world and had to prioritize yourself, your family, your practicalities of actual basic human living, of food on the table, keeping everyone going, looking after yourself mentally, looking after others mentally, as well as dealing with bad news. I personally, if I heard that from a recruiter side of view, I'd be like, amazing, like, well done you. And I think also, like, something really important to touch on is there is a lot of like the Instagram life of, oh, this lockdown's been amazing, I bake banana bread every 2 seconds, that I've innovated so much that, I don't know, it's got like doves flying out of it, as well as learning 7 languages this morning and reading Homer's Odyssey and all of that, but in the original, not translated into English. There's a lot of that, and that's what people will put on LinkedIn, that's what people put on Instagram, that's what people put on Facebook. And I get it, because it does get a lot, like when you log onto LinkedIn and someone's like, oh, well, this morning I signed up 500 clients and now have earned £1 million just by breathing. And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, like I feel shit. But then you've got to take that step back and say, wait a minute, is that actually what I want to do? Do I want to make dove flying banana bread? Not really. Come back to what I value, what I've done. And like Kim said, with the gratitude, is actually taking that time, and what I went through with her and some of you a couple of weeks ago, was taking that moment every day to write down 3 things that you're grateful for or proud of. And they can be big or small. For example, like this morning, I made myself a lovely cup of coffee and took the time to work out with my sister. You know, they're not groundbreaking, they're not massively affecting the world in any way, shape or form. It's a cup of coffee and it's working out with my sister. But for me, that's making sure I'm nourishing myself and giving that morning routine some clarity and space. And that's connecting with the people that mean the most in the world to me. And there's nothing more valuable to me than that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it now? If I asked you that question.
A lot better. I think I should have hopefully had to spoken to you earlier 3 months ago. But no, I think it is that even Instagram, but even LinkedIn's a bit like it, where everyone
Very
is,
much.
you know, talking about it, and it's brilliant. You know, I'm happy for everybody, but I think it's that extra layer of pressure during this time when there's other pressure to still be that performing perfect professional in an interview, where you've taken this great opportunity for some people, which is great for those, but for others it's not been that great, to be honest. So you know, but no, after like hearing you say that, it's made me feel a lot better that I haven't sort of failed, as it were, at that hurdle. Well, if in that moment I kind of felt like I failed, sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's completely okay to have felt that. I hope now you can see, and if someone asks you something similar moving forward, that you know how much you've achieved by existing, by getting through every day. Like that in itself can be the hardest thing and the biggest achievement. And it's kind of just taking that little pause to remember that and reflect on that and know that, you know, this has been a global pandemic that's shut down economies, changed a lot of how we work, and it'll be interesting to see how things kind of move forward in the next year or so. But, you know, no one can expect everyone to be like sunshine, rainbows, unicorns. It's been a shit time, and it's okay that it's been a shit time. You're moving forward, you're growing, you've done incredibly throughout. So just know that in your heart and take a little time to kind of let that sink in.
Can I expand on that just a little bit? Because my question actually got answered by Sophia. My question was going to be, do you think that recruiters will be asking the question, how did you deal with lockdown? How did you deal with certain things during this time? So it seems like yes, because Sophia's had this question asked to her. But I also did another kind of interview prep webinar where they said, you know, if you haven't done a lot, because obviously just managing your life can be a lot for some people, you can kind of turn the question around, and if they say, what have you done during lockdown, you can change it to, oh, actually how I've managed my mental health during lockdown is spending time with my family, managing my home, you know, getting my finances in order. You kind of turn it more to not what I've physically done, but what I've mentally done. And so I just kind of wanted to mention that as well, if you agree.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant.
You're probably in a different area of everyone else's screen, but
that's a really good point. And I think the thing is, we have no control over what people are going to ask in interviews. And to be honest, I think there are a lot of bad interviewers because people never get training, or hardly ever get training in companies on how to interview and how to approach these kind of things. So you have no control over that. All you can do is do as much preparation as possible. And Jay, I see your question around what happens if something goes wrong in the actual interview. All you can do is do as much prep as you want to and as you feel good with. You know yourself, you know your experience, you know what you're looking for, you know what you bring, you know what areas there are to work on, because for all of us, there are areas to work on. And that's a constant, otherwise life would be very, very boring. So, you know, if things don't go to plan, it's okay. It's one of those things of approaching each conversation as a conversation you are interested to be in. Not you're on the spot and you have to be like, please accept me, I'm a perfect human and I'm very good at what I do and blah, blah, blah. No, it's a conversation you're interested to be in. You want to tell these people about your experience, why your organizational skills are on point, why you will make an amazing project manager or whatever you're going for. You want to tell them that, and you want to hear more about them, how they're going to support you, how you're going to support them, how you're going to grow the company together, the team together, the event together, the project together. What's the difference you're going to make? And it's just that slight little mindset switch so that you don't have that anxiety. It's good to have a little bit, that adrenaline boost that kind of makes your hair all glossy and you be like, hello, welcome, hi, I'm amazing, thanks, good to meet you too. But you know, it's just letting yourself have that moment of, it's not the end of the world, it's okay. Let's approach this as an interesting conversation and see where it goes. You may really want it to work out, that's absolutely fine. You will have disappointment, you will get upset. It can feel like a massive, massive slog. That's natural, that's okay. Take that little moment to allow yourself to just maybe cry, feel a bit crap, but only a short moment, and then think, right, go back to the gratitude, go back to look at my strengths, what I bring. Remember that. Exhale it out, and then move forward onto the next one. And it is that kind of onto the next one mindset. And if it works out and someone offers you a job, great. But also take that moment to think, is this the job that I want? Refusing jobs is also allowed.
And what we'll do is, just to finish up, just do a quick round robin, and a key takeaway from everyone, kind of just one thing or one, you know, if you were reminded of something. If everyone's okay, I'm going to read out names. Tim, would you like to go first?
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that so quickly. I'm going to try the grateful log list, because it sounds like it's worked for the people, and I keep a list every day of what I'm going to do. So I think I'm going to add that as a component to that and see how it goes.
Amazing. Good luck with it.
Fantastic. Kim?
I think for me it was that it's like okay to be authentic in your interview. You know, you don't have to. You tell your story in your way, and you don't have to just like give them what they think they want to hear, but you can tell your own story.
Yeah, and kind of assess, I guess, in doing that, it's about assessing, you know, if they don't want to take you because of how you've said that story, then thinking, well, probably wasn't the right opportunity for you. And that can be difficult and stuff, but that's great.
Also quite empowering, I think. Sophia?
I'm going to take a lot back. I've written loads of notes. The one thing that I definitely want to take is the way you worded weakness in terms of what am I working on. I liked that wording of it, because hearing the word weakness always stumps me. You always think, oh, I've got to be a positive negative, but I like the wording of what am I working on, what am I working towards, to answer that question more correctly, and with actually being truthful, going, yeah, I am working on this. Yeah.
Amazing.
Nice. Jane, anything for you that you've taken away from today?
I think for me is having little prompts around and key points.
Yeah, like that as well. Brilliant. Nadine?
I think my thing was that, yeah, you sort of, the way you sit when you're talking on Zoom, and the way your stance and your posture and all of that kind of thing, because I have a tendency to sort of zoom in and then zoom out again, because you get animated and your arms start flying about, and you're right, you look like a puppet. So yeah, I think I need to sort of keep still and just stay put.
Yeah, and honestly, you can have your own Zoom meeting by yourself and record it and answer some of the questions and just see how you are, and then watch it back. It is very painful and very awkward, but it does help you to kind of get a bit more of a feel.
Yeah, because it's a new thing, isn't it? We chat like this and it's fine, but when you're actually on the spot and you're being watched, yeah, you've got to be aware of what you're doing a lot more, definitely.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Good luck.
Sophie, for you, any key takeaway?
For me, it was a very good reminder to slow down when you speak, because when I used to interview, I would like get super excited, and I would like jump around, and so it's good in a way because you show that you are super enthusiastic and stuff, but then I can understand it's a lot for someone else to take on, and also if I have to interview through Zoom, I guess that the perspective shifts. So now people are a bit more like, oh my God, they probably think, oh my God, what's going on with that person? She's probably got ADHD or something like that. So slowing down, good. And then also what I really liked is a good reminder of the structure in how you prep your interview and how you will tell your story. I really like that that sentence, telling your story, because I really think that everyone has a story and everyone has a unique story. It doesn't mean it's better or not as good as anyone else. It's just our story, and we just have to own our story. And in the end, it's like you said, if it's the right opportunity for us, then great. If it's not, let's move on. Yeah, that's my key takeaway.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Veronique, any key insights for you?
Yeah, probably preps and had to be on Zoom, because that's something definitely I haven't done. I do intend to do a lot of extra. That must be the French in me, probably like Sophie. Yeah, that would be good. And positive, and not going for every job. So just go for what you like. I mean, I've tried to do this, but just go for something which will suit. Not because you can't just if you go for something which is not really you. I don't think you can just blag your way out all the time. So just go, yeah. As we say, know yourself and try to get through this, and stay positive. We will get through this.
Yeah, exactly.
It will come back. It will come back.
Brilliant. Thank you, Veronique. Katrina?
Well, I have a few takeaways. One of them, which was really helpful, was one of the things I've been doing during COVID is helping people for a charity doing mock interviews, so much more entry-level roles for the hospitality industry. And a lot of the things you said is a lot of the things that I told them, so I was kind of like, oh, phew, thank God. But when you're talking about planting your feet and stuff like that, just in case there's people that are like me, I'm really bad at doing this and talking with my hands, which can be really distracting. So another thing, or two other things that I had told people is I have a habit of, I lock my pinkies. And if you lock your pinkies and put them on your lap, you keep your posture straight, but it also keeps you like mentally aware not to move your hands. And then as well, to sit in a really uncomfortable chair. And I know that sounds really weird, but when you're in something uncomfortable, you automatically sit as straight as possible because you're trying to make yourself as uncomfortable as possible. Whereas when you're sitting in an uncomfortable chair or a comfy chair, you can tend to kind of just lay back and get comfy. So those are just two extra things. But my key takeaways are going through situation, evaluation, action, and conclusion. For all my points, I thought that was really good because it does, sometimes when you're in a story, you can get yourself really lost in telling the story and then it just kind of sounds like you're rambling. So to making sure that you're hitting those 4 points and bringing it to an end is always important. And then as well, I really liked your one, because I always like to have 3 questions for the end. I always say 3 because questions can get answered during the interview and then you would hate to be left with nothing. But I really liked your one where you said, what do they see as a success in the next 3 months and how are they going to support you in reaching this success? I thought that was a really good question because it really shows that you're committed to making this your commitment. I want to know what it's going to be for me and for you down the line. So I thought that was really good.
Brilliant.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Viviana?
Yes, for me, yes, lots of points have been touched already but I think the idea of rethink the interview process in this period after COVID, after the lockdown. So to think about not only the interview itself, but what you've done during and after to prepare to this new phase we are going through. So the idea of changing the way you approach interviews and to rethink about the period just before, I think it's very important just not to go to an interview in the same way you would do before.
Fantastic, amazing. Thank you so much, Viviana. And Kim says her key takeaway is to be sure how happy, or how you look. This is where it starts. I'm encouraged of this because I usually miss this fall. Fantastic, brilliant. Well, we will leave it there. Thank you. Oh, Zanita, there you are. You moved on my screen, so I thought you popped out. A quick takeaway from you.
A lot was said, a lot of points, but for me, I think because I absolutely hate interviews and I work myself up to really badly, and I think the one thing I will need to do, and I keep saying to myself to do, is that preparation that I will have to. I mean, if you go for similar jobs, I guess the similar questions, at least the basis will come back on there. So I need to really prepare those examples, as you said, have an example or 2 or 3 for every kind of question that you can think of ahead, because I'm not very good at thinking on my feet there and then when they ask a question and I just can't think of anything. But if I go in at least with in my head with some examples for every kind of question that can be around events or marketing that I can think of or I know about, then at least it's prepared and it's there for me to think of, because I can't be very quick. And to be honest, face-to-face interviews are a nightmare already, and the Zoom interviews are just... Yesterday I had to do a pre-interview thing where I had to answer 7 questions and record myself.
Wow.
I can't even explain what it meant. Like, I spent all day recording myself 1,000,000 times, answering every question and over again, and it's just a nightmare.
Oh.
So, but anyway, so that I think I will try to be more prepared with examples already in my head from my previous, experiences in previous jobs, so that I can react quickly.
Yeah, and remember, some of your examples you'll be able to tweak and work and remold for a plethora of different questions. So if you've got 3 really great examples and someone asks a question that you didn't expect, just quickly go back. Your experience, your examples, and then go for it and slightly tweak them to whatever angle they're asking. Your experience. Get used to recording yourself. It's a weird thing, but honestly, the more you do it, the more you practice, the more it will seem like second nature. And just remember, it's an interesting conversation that you're excited to be part of. It's okay to be nervous. It gives you that boost. Take your time, roll your shoulders back, do some deep breaths. Inhale for 4, exhale for 8. Do that 3 to 10 times before you go into the interview. And just give yourself that space. You'll be great. And let me know how it goes. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Beth Hope. I'm cheering you all on. And if you guys want to know anything more or practice interviews, anything like that, just reach out. I'm here.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Beth. I will link your LinkedIn, some stuff to the email. If you're on our email list, I'll make sure that replay is sent out. Thank you all for joining us. I hope to see you next week. We're on every week, so just join as and when. Thank you all.
Thank you guys so much. And Katerina, good luck with